Good afternoon and welcome to the June 15th Glendale Parks, Recreation and Community Services Commission meeting. Due to the evolving situation with COVID-19 novel coronavirus and health recommendations from the LA County Health Department, the Glendale Parks, Recreation and Community Services Commission meeting will be available to the public electronically. Due to social distancing requirements, the public will not be able to attend the meeting, but you are encouraged to watch and participate from the safety of your homes to practice social distancing. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioners Babayan is absent. Eberly? Present. Alfayan?
Present.
Michaels? Commissioner Michaels? If Commissioner Michaels is there, I am not able to hear you. Please unmute yourself. I believe you were joining the meeting. Okay. I don't hear him now, so I'll mark him as absent. President Wolfson?
Here, present. Next item, please.
A report of recording clerk regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for the June 15, 2020 regular meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on or before June 12, 2020.
Thank you. Next.
Item 2, upcoming council agenda items.
Thank you, President Wolfson, members of the commission. We have a few items coming up this next month. Tomorrow, June 16th, the Deukmejian Park Nature Education Center, Phase 4, Part 3. We are going to council for a resolution dispensing with competitive bids and authorizing purchasing administrator to issue a purchase order, service authorization in the amount of $554,000. This is for the Nature Education Center. On June 30th, a report regarding award of supportive services program funds for County of Los Angeles Workforce Development and Aging for additional funds that we will be receiving for next fiscal year. And on July 21st, we will be taking the homeless count.
Okay, thank you. Next item.
Item 3, commission staff comments.
Oh, I just want to open it by saying this is our first virtual meeting, and I hope that everyone will be patient with us. We're figuring our way out through this. However, we're benefiting from the experience of council and other commissions who have already met in this manner, and I hope that anyone who's watching from home who has comments will feel free to call in and share their thoughts with us. Thank you. Anybody else? Well, I don't know if Commissioner Eberly, do you have any comments?
I'd just like to thank the staff for their quick work meeting the needs of especially our homeless and senior residents during the COVID crisis.
Thank you. Commissioner Kalfayan?
No comments at this time.
Thank you. And if Commissioner Michaels is on the call?
I am on the call. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
At a headset issue, I would like to echo the support for the staff's adaptability and communication at this time, including the report that was given to the commissioners last month and their responsiveness to the public's comments, including the resident who responded to the Parks Commission around the Brand Park area.
Okay, thank you. Any staff comments? I guess I should have asked for that first. I'm sorry. Are there any staff comments?
President Wolfson, members of the commission, as of now, no, but we will be updating you on 7A, the COVID-19 operation update. So I'll comment then with all the programs and services that we're providing.
Okay, thank you. Next item, please.
Next, we have item 4, oral communications. I don't believe we've had anyone call in yet, but just to make it clear anybody who is interested, any member of the public interested in making comments or questions during the meeting can call 818-937-8100. But at this time, I don't believe you have any calls. Is that correct?
That is correct. I've gotten a message, no calls at this time. Thank you.
Moving on to item 5. I'm sorry, I apologize.
No.
Item 5, consent items. At A is approval of the minutes of the Commission's special meeting held on February 24, 2020.
Okay.
I would like to move the minutes of the that will be approved for the Commission's regular meeting on Monday, February 24th.
I will second. Commissioner Michaels.
Thank you. I'll take roll call. Commissioners Babayan is absent. Everly,
Yes.
Kalfayan,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
President Wilson.
Yes. Next item?
Next item 6, action items. At A is expansion of day camp locations. At 1 is a motion to expand the locations to which existing day camp fees apply to be applicable at any day camp location.
You're
Good
done.
afternoon.
Okay.
Yes, sorry. I was having a little mic difficulty. Good afternoon, President Wolfson and members of the Commission. I'm Gabrielle Golia, and I'm a Senior Supervisor with the Community Services and Parks Department. I am here today with a recommendation that the staff, that the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission approve a motion to expand the locations to which existing day camp fees apply to be applicable at any day camp location. I'm going to move on to the slide that is, I think it's slide 3, summer 2020 day camps. The Community Services and Parks Department typically offers 7 day camp programs at 5 different locations. Each site charges a different fee for the camps offered, although the fees are not necessarily tied to those locations in the citywide fee schedule. However, in all of our presentations to the Commission in the past, we have listed them specific to a location. So the purpose of this motion is to expand the locations for each of those fees so that we can charge any of the day camp fees at any of our locations. And what that's going to allow us to do this summer is to charge our least expensive camp at all locations. That way we provide more affordable childcare across the city for all residents this summer, especially with the reduced activities and all of the restrictions that COVID-19 has, the county is placing on daycare providers with COVID-19. And it also will help our residents, hopefully with all of the economic hardships that are going on. It will provide a better opportunity for people to be able to find childcare at a hopefully affordable rate. We will be, the LA County Department of Public Health is restricting many of the activities that we typically provide in our daycare programs. We typically take the kids swimming once a week. Some of our camps, many of our camps go on field trips. Some of them are on public transportation. Some of them are on school buses. But the Maple Stars Camp at Maple Park is one of our basic child care camp options. They stay on site all day, every day. It is available for parents who need the most affordable and basic child care. So that is the option we'd like to charge this summer if the motion is approved to be able to charge any day camp fees at any location. And the approval will go forward into future years. Right now, we don't foresee needing to do this kind of shake up a little bit with the fees, but it gives us the opportunity based on future COVID situations or recovery situations or whatever the operational necessity might be to be able to charge some of these fees at other locations in the future. So if we bring back something like swimming next summer, but we're still not doing field trips, maybe we'll charge the Pacific Cool Days fee at all sites because we'll be transporting kids. It's just an idea for future, and it leaves open that opportunity. We typically do offer camps during the scheduled GUSD school breaks. We offer them when school is out for more than 3 consecutive days. So that typically plays out to be the fall Thanksgiving break, the winter break, spring break, and summer break. Typically, families choose our day camps for one of 2 primary reasons. They either need childcare or they need entertainment for their children. This year, we are offering this program more as a childcare option because we need to provide essential childcare to families who are starting to return to work. I'm going to change the slide. This is a list of the currently approved day camps and the locations assigned to them. So this is what we would have been charging this summer if we weren't faced with the situation with COVID-19. And it is a brief explanation of all of our locations and the fees associated with them, as well as the age ranges and the times of the camp. You can see that our camps ranged in price from $75 up to $150 per week per child. That is a resident fee. Non-residents were charged an additional $15 per week. And there was an additional before or after care fee of $20. So if a parent needed care earlier than the standard camp time, they could sign up for before care for $20. And if they needed care typically between 4 and 6 p.m., we could offer aftercare for an additional $20. I want to point out that the camps, most of our camps were for 6 to 12-year-olds, with the exception of the kinder camp for 4 to 5-year-olds and the traveling teen camps for 12 to 14. Part of our plans this summer don't include offering the kinder or traveling teens, so you'll see in future slides we are going to be expanding some of our ages at a couple of the camps to include 5 to 14-year-olds. And that was, we're expanding those ages this summer just to be able to accommodate some of the kids outside of the standard camp ages. The next slide that I'm changing to is just a continuation of the day camps that we offered. These are those half-day programs. So many of our camps had a half-day option associated with them as well as full-day options. This summer, we don't intend to operate half-day programs. It is very difficult for us due to the protocols that the county is placing to be able to switch the kids halfway through the day. And I'll go over a little bit later some of those protocols, the significant ones that we are going to be addressing this summer, which will address the issue with the half-day camps and the difficulties with that. The next slide that I'm showing is our proposed 2020 summer day camp. So if the motion is approved, as I mentioned, we do plan on operating the Maple Stars Camp at 4 different locations. The Maple Park location will be the same basic camp that it always has been, with the same fee of $75 per week per child for residents and $90 for non-residents. So that fee we're not proposing to change. We are extending the age to be from 5 to 12 years old at that camp to accommodate the kindergartners who would be going to kinder camp, but we won't be offering that. Care will be from 9 to 4 with some before and after care options available as well. Maple Stars Camp at Pacific Community Center will be the same price of the $75 per week for residents. We are going to offer this for 5 to 14-year-olds, so we're going to extend it a little bit on that 14, the top end of the age range, to accommodate for the teens that may need care still with the lack of traveling teen camp. Maple Stars Camp at Brand Studios. This is the camp, typically we would offer a camp at Griffith Manor. However, Griffith Manor is a smaller building, and due to some of the restrictions and protocols, we do need to have a larger space to be able to separate the children out in small groups. So we felt that Brand Studios, with the multiple studio rooms and the park attached to it, provided a better location for us to be able to offer that care and still meet the protocols. Maple Stars Camp at the Civic Auditorium. This is going to replace the Summer Spectacular Camp at Verdugo Park. We will still utilize Verdugo Park for the camp. It's just that it is provides us with an indoor option for hot weather days. Typically, Verdugo Park Camp would go to the Dad's Club, but that is way too small of a building for us to be able to accommodate. Some things I want to talk about with each of these sites. Maple Park Capacity in typical summers would be 85. We are going to be able to only take 40 children at that location due to smaller group sizes. The Pacific location, if you count up the kinder camp, traveling teen camp, and cool days, both full day and half day options, we would have typically been able to accommodate 176 kids. This summer it will be 110 kids maximum per week at that location. The Brand Studios location replacing Griffith Manor was a typical capacity of 60. That one is going to only be 30. Most of our camps are cutting approximately in half. Some locations that we have bigger buildings, we can accommodate a little more than half. And the Civic Auditorium location, replacing the Verdugo Park Summer Spectacular Camp, typical capacity is 75. This one will be 60 capacity. We do have potential for expanding that location a little bit in capacity. It will depend on staffing levels. We're still trying to anticipate the staffing and who's coming back and how the groups will work. So we are setting our initial capacity at 60. What we're not offering this summer is the traveling teen camp. The purpose of that camp is care for 12 to 14-year-olds, and they do go on field trips every single day on public transportation, or close to every day. So without the option of going on excursions, we are incorporating them into the Civic Auditorium camp. We're going to go up to 14 years old there, and then also at Pacific, like I mentioned earlier. Kinder camp, younger children, kinder camp won't be offered. Younger children really do need a little bit more assistance with daily activities. And especially with the 4-year-olds, our concern is that they will not be able to physically distance themselves properly and wear masks. The mask wearing is going to be hard enough with the older children. And because we're offering that program as a basic child care program, some of the licensing requirements change for under 5 years old, so we've decided to cut our age limit at 5 years old in order to capture the children going into kindergarten this year or having just come out of kindergarten. But we will not be taking preschool age children this summer. The final camp that we're not offering this year is the Spartacular Camp. That facility is having some work done on the floors and some construction in the facility, so we couldn't guarantee that it would be available the entire time. So we did decide to move the staff down to the Civic Auditorium in order to accommodate a few more children there and make that capacity a bit larger than it would have been. I'm going to change to the next slide now. This is our list of the significant changes that are going to be happening this summer due to COVID-19. There is a copy in the report that was posted as Exhibit 1 and in your packets. That is the draft guidance for the Community Services and Parks Program, Day Camp Program. These are based on the protocols released by the LA County Department of Public Health and the CDC, and that program guidance will change as those protocols change. So it's a living document, and we will update it with a new version every time new guidelines are set out. The significant changes, we will have a participant to staff ratio of 10 to 1 instead of our typical 15 to 1. These kids will be in small groups and they will stay in that group of 10 throughout the whole week. We will not be intermixing the groups from day to day or throughout the day. They'll be in a pod, almost is what we're calling them, and that pod will remain intact for the whole week. We will be sending out a health screening via email the week prior to camp starting. We're going to be checking for potential exposure to COVID-19 before arriving at camp and asking if they've had any travels recently that would preclude them from being a part of camp, where we would ask them to self-isolate for up to 14 days if they've been traveling on an airplane somewhere else. We don't want to be bringing something else back in as we're trying to recover locally. In addition to just travels, we will be asking if anyone has been experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 based on the CDC guidance, which updates regularly within the past 72 hours, and if they've had to take any medication to hide any symptoms of COVID-19 at all. We'll also be doing a health screening upon arrival for both staff and the participants, and that will include a temperature check. So we have purchased touchless thermometers, and we will be turning anyone away, staff and participants, if they have a fever of 100.0 or above, or a temperature of 100.0 or above. So 99.9 and the participant may stay, 100.0 and they must go. We will allow for them to cool down. There will be a cool down period if someone says, oh, I just ran up and it's so hot outside and I'm overheated. We will allow them to step aside with their parent for 10 minutes in an isolated area and then come back and have their temperature rechecked. And if they are lower, then okay, it was just from exertion. But if it is higher than 100.0 or at 100.0, we will unfortunately have to turn them away from the program. I mentioned that participants will be kept in the same group weekly to the extent possible. Siblings are going to be assigned to the same groups as much as possible as well. So our age range within a camp group may be quite large. We could have kids as young as 5 years old and as old as 14 in the same group. So the staff will be particularly tasked this year with coming up with activities and supervising large groups, not large groups, groups of 10, but that they'll have to come up with activities that they all can do together. Those groups will remain static throughout the week, so they will not be changing throughout the week at all. And that way, if there is exposure to COVID-19 from someone at home or someone is confirmed with it within that pod, it is only the pod that is affected. The other pods will not have come into contact with them. We'll also be doing some strict disinfection between pods. So if there is a room that they each move into, the room will be disinfected before another group moves into it. And the same with the restroom areas and equipment. We'll be doing proper disinfection of all equipment. Children will be receiving kits at the beginning of the week, which will have their own set of materials to be used. So we won't have a common bin of crayons and scissors and glue. They'll each have their own, which does increase the cost somewhat, but it helps protect them with not having as much cross-contamination. Face coverings will be required for all staff when, at all times except when eating. We're going to strongly encourage the masks with children. We recognize that it's going to be very difficult. And we will be providing mask breaks for the kids when they're socially distant enough from each other doing an outdoor activity that allows them to be able to take the mask off for a few minutes and have that necessary break so that it's easier to wear it when they're a little bit closer together or inside. But we will be practicing physical distancing even within the groups to the extent possible. And it will be a challenge because kids don't understand what physical distancing is and the importance of it. So we do anticipate that there will be a lot of gentle reminders to put face masks back on and to step apart from each other. The crafts and schedules, we're working closely with the staff to come up with crafts and activities and games that will hopefully keep them entertained but apart. And so that's where we're relying on our very creative staff. And we will also schedule frequent hand washing throughout the day. We'll have actual scheduled hand washing as well as anytime we think we need it, we will send the kids in for hand washing. So that will become part of the actual day-to-day activities. I'm changing the slide now, maybe. Okay, we'll move on to our registration for the program. Our plan is to begin some registration this week. We will open up to some city employees who are trying to return to work and need some essential child care by June 18th, with resident registration opening June 22nd at 9 a.m. and non-resident registration opening June 23rd at 9 a.m. All registration this year will take place online. We will have staff in the offices come Monday to help handle the registration. We're expecting we hope a large group of calls to come in or people trying to get online to register. And so we will have some staff on hand to be able to answer those phones and assist them, but we will be doing everything online this year. The residents must provide proof of residency prior to Monday, June 22nd. So we are asking that if they have not provided their residency yet, proof of residency yet, that they do reach out to us, and they can find out the information on our website at glendaleca.gov/daycamps. And that way they can email us with that proof of residency so that come Monday morning it is a smooth process for them. The fiscal impact for this change is a bit challenging for us to predict. If under normal operations, there really wouldn't be a fiscal impact. We'd be operating our camps at the same sites as always for the same fees. But with this year, we just don't know exactly what to anticipate with registration. Our 2019 revenue was $397,381, and our expenses was $334,302. Our estimated revenue for 2020 is anywhere from $162,000 to $220,000, and that difference can range because of residents versus non-residents, people needing before care or after care. We just don't really know what that impact might be this year. We also anticipate that some people may be hesitant to sign up for day camps this year. Change the slide to the next slide. Really, this is the end of my prepared presentation concerning the camps. So we are asking that the commission action is to approve the motion that expands the fees for day camp programs to all of the locations available. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go through my fellow commissioners first. Commissioner Eberly, do you have questions?
Sure. I'm wondering what you're hearing from families, what you anticipate. I mean, I assume you're trying to hit the right number, but do you feel like you're going to be able to meet the need of the community for childcare through this plan, or is it shorter than that?
President Wolfson and Commissioner Eberly, honestly, we're flying in the dark a little bit. We certainly are offering fewer spaces this year. It's approximately half the normal spaces that we would typically offer per week. But we don't anticipate that every family will need care. We've kind of cued into the YMCA, which opened their camp a little bit earlier and followed their numbers a little bit, and they are not maxing out on their capacity, although their prices are significantly higher than what we are planning on charging this summer. So that could mean that we won't hit our capacities. We haven't necessarily heard from parents in particular about needing care. We've also reached out to the Glendale Unified School District to see about their summer triple ELP camp program, and it looks like at this point in time they're thinking of offering one location for, I believe it's 60 kids maximum, which is significantly lower than they've typically offered in the past as well. So if we have a few spots that we can increase potentially at the Civic Auditorium, if we find that we're hitting our capacities, we will look to open those spots up. But we're hopeful that we get a good number, but that we don't max out and have to turn people away.
Great. I was also wondering, are you doing any kind of tiered registration for essential workers or anything like that, or is it it's just city employees, residents, and non-residents?
Because most people have begun returning to work, the difference between essential workers and other employees in retail services, restaurant services that wouldn't necessarily have been considered essential before, we are just opening it up as a regular registration, so it will be employees, residents, and non-residents at this point in time.
Okay, just one more question, which is,
Sure.
I'm having a hard time imagining what the outdoor activity is looking like. What would kids be doing outside? I mean, I understand they'll be doing art projects and things like that inside, but what will they be doing outside?
Well, we're looking at activities and sports games that don't necessarily require touching the same ball or touching the same equipment all at the same time. Kickball is a game that can be played. We have looked into potentially like a small version of like a field hockey game, things where the kids would have their own equipment, which could be disinfected at the end of each time. Songs and dances like the Hokey Pokey, where they can stand in a circle more than 6 feet apart and they can sing songs and move physically, because we really need these kids to be moving a lot more. We're really working with our staff and sitting in on a lot of conference calls with other cities and their day camp programs to try and share those ideas, because everybody is trying to come up with the same information and having the same challenges. And so we are definitely brainstorming as a Southern California community more than just our own staff this year.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Michaels, or excuse me, Kalfayan, I'm sorry. Do you have?
Let Commissioner Michael go before me, and then I'll come back.
Okay. Commissioner Michaels, do you have questions?
Well, one question I have is, As far as the branding or the naming of the camps, that initially with the reports was confusing to me. If you are still using the Maple Stars camps at a different location, I might suggest dropping the name Maple and just identifying the type of camp, whether it is for example, the Stars type camp, which is primarily for childcare, versus a traveling teens camp, to try and clarify the names, because I can see that being confusing if people are trying to register for a Maple Stars camp at Brand Studios.
President
That would
Wolfson.
be,
Is that the end of the question?
that's the end of the question.
Okay.
President Wolfson, Commissioner Michaels, this is Teresa. Just wanted to address that question. We do agree with you that it is a little confusing by using the same name, but we were limited by legally with the fee that we could charge. If we were to bring a new fee to commission, it would take an additional 30 days for that fee to go into effect, and we would not be able to advertise and register for camps. So unfortunately, we had to look at our existing fees and use a camp that would be comparable with the activities that the children would be doing in camp, but use an existing fee, and the fee title had to remain the same. We could check back with legal to see if we could possibly advertise it differently with the name, but the last time we checked, we had to use the fee title as it appears because that is how commission approved it on the fee resolution. So that's mainly the reason why we had to leave the Maple Stars camp in the title and add the locations.
That does make more sense if it's tied to the fee schedule there. If this is a change for the motion today is something that will carry forward into the future, I might suggest looking at another change the next time the commission reviews the fee structure to make the naming more clear and separate the type of camp from the location, just to match the intent of the proposed motion for today.
Will do. Thank you.
Do you have any other questions, Commissioner Michael?
Commissioner Eberly talked about the type of activities which I had questions of, and I believe the staff answered those satisfactory. I do want to say I appreciate the detail in the exhibits as far as the procedures. That answered many of my questions. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Michaels. Commissioner Kalfayan, do you have any questions?
Yes. It looks like we have a very challenging and difficult job coming up to keep our kids or the community healthy. Did we bring any experts to educate our staff that they will be running the camps?
President Wolfson, Commissioner Kalfayan, if you don't mind, a follow-up question on that. Did you mean professionals to train the staff or professionals concerning COVID-19 procedures?
Yeah, COVID-19 procedures. I mean, do we have enough education to run the camps safely? That's my question.
Thank you for the clarification. Yes, we're following all of the protocols for opening workplaces as well as opening the day camps and the child care facilities. We have studied all of the CDC, LA County Department of Health, and California state guidelines in order to protect the staff. We are doing training specific to COVID-19 protections for staff and for how to protect the children better, how to disinfect everything on top of the standard training that we do for our staff each year. One of the good things and bad things about this year is that we're not hiring any new staff. So that was a bit of a limitation on some of our numbers right now, but it also provides us with experienced staff. So we're not bringing on any new staff this summer that we will have to train from scratch. So in that good way, we can spend more time focusing on protections and wearing the personal protective equipment, the PPE that we'll be providing, and how to clean properly. And we don't have to spend as much time on some of the housekeeping things like how to fill out a time card and how to submit their hours for approval. So we will definitely be spending significant amounts of time on making sure that our staff and the children are protected.
Okay, good luck. And then my other question is cleaning staff. When you said disinfecting and so on, how educated they are that they will be able to disinfect truly deeply.
Thank you, Commissioner Kalfayan. We, at most of our centers, we do actually contract out the cleaning to Haynes. I believe it's Haynes Professional Services is the name of the company, and it's a professional custodial company. So they'll be doing the cleaning nightly in order to disinfect the studios or the locations. We will bringing staff in, custodial staff at night to do a deep cleaning of the facility every night so that every morning when the kids arrive and the staff arrive, the facility is disinfected and cleaned satisfactorily. And then throughout the day, based on the protocols that the state and county are setting, we'll be doing periodic cleaning and then following along behind each group to do cleaning. So we have EPA approved disinfectants that are listed out. We're making sure that they're all part of the EPA list that the CDC is releasing and to do the disinfection. And then we will use standard sanitizers like a 409 or Simple Green in order to actually clean the surface off once any disinfection is done, with which would be the deep cleaning and killing of bacteria, viruses, germs of any kind.
Okay. Hello?
Yes.
Hello, yeah. Okay, and you have some funds that you showed us that there'll be extra funds. Those funds will be coming from the city
Funds.
or from the LA County?
You're talking about financial,
The financial funds.
President Wolfson, Commissioner Kalfayan, we don't have additional funds coming in. What we have is our regular day camp budget. So the funds are coming from the general fund, the city's general fund, which is the same pot of money that we use to run camps regularly. There is no additional funds that are coming from an outside source.
Okay, thank you. Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kalfayan. So I had a couple of questions. Some of them have been touched on already. The first question I had is, have we heard from any parents or other people interested in registering at all this year yet? And it seems like you're going to answer that.
President Wolfson, thank you. We haven't received any specific calls for care from previous participants or people reaching out specifically for this summer, although we did just receive the approval for day camps to open a few weeks ago. It was approximately 1.5 weeks ago. So it's, I think parents are just now starting to feel like they're comfortable to put their children back into the care, and they're starting to look for it. And we may not have some parents come back this summer, and that's okay too. They may choose that if they have the option to provide care without sending them to camp, they can save that money and they can also save the exposure.
President Wolfson, just to add to that, in Gabrielle's section, they may have not received calls, but in Sevak's section, who does operate the Pacific day camps, he averages 3 to 4 calls a day, and parents asking about the protocols as far as how, what are we going to do and what are going to be the new COVID protocols.
Thank you. So it sounds like we're getting calls that are of people interested in whether it's going to happen and also how safe we're going to make it for everybody, which is good. And I'm assuming that staff is going to use timers or some other mechanism to ensure that hand washing and the surface disinfecting is happening on schedule. Is that correct? Or
Yes, President Wolfson. We're actually creating a daily calendar or a daily schedule that we'll be distributing to parents so that they can see what's happening. And part of that schedule will be actual hand washing times that are built into it. So as they're following the schedule throughout the day, it will be, it's time for your hand washing again, as well as before and after all eating and all restroom breaks, which aren't timed. I mean, we'll time them a little bit, but if a child needs to use the facility, we of course will let them use it and then enforce hand washing immediately after.
Perfect, thank you. And I wanted to just say I'm concerned about the psychological impact that this whole pandemic is having on children, especially small children. We were talking about that a little bit. And I noticed we had a virtual teen night out program this past year about mental health issues during the pandemic. I'm concerned that younger children may be experiencing even more trauma from this. And I just want to put it out there in hopes maybe, we'll all be as a community alert to how children are responding to this and be sensitive to that, because I know from personal experience how that can really impact somebody for the rest of their life. Additionally, I'm hoping maybe among the programs, maybe a little bit of information about public health. That's a subject near and dear to my heart. And, who knows, maybe some of these kids are going to take an interest and want to have public health careers, out of this. And finally, I guess we'll just be ready. I don't know. That's about it for me on this topic for the moment. Thank you. Do we want to, does somebody have a motion? I hear noises.
President Wolfson, the motion before the commission is to expand the locations to which existing day camp fees apply to be applicable at any day camp location. So if any of the commissioners, if a commissioner wants to move that motion and somebody second, we could take roll call.
Perfect.
I will move the motion as proposed.
Thank you.
I will second it.
Okay, may we have the roll call?
Absolutely. Commissioners, Rabayan is absent. Eberly?
Yes.
Kafayan?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And President Wolfson.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Next item, please.
Next item is item 7, reports for information only at A, COVID-19 operation update.
Thank you, President Wolfson, members of the commission. I would like to give a brief COVID report update to all the commissioners in regards to our staffing in all of our sections on what we've done during the last 2.5 months since March 13th. The rest of the reports are in your packets for information only. If you have any questions for the other reports, we'll be more than happy to answer them. But moving forward, I would like to give the commission an update on COVID-19 and what we have done. So the pandemic, for us, the pandemic began, the actual closures began March 13th of 2020. Due to LA County health officers' orders, we closed all of our facilities, buildings, sport fields, parks. Park locations were open for passive recreation, but all active recreation was closed starting March 13th. Our buildings, indoor facilities, the Verdugo Job Center, community buildings, multi-purpose rooms were all closed. Events were canceled. Large events were canceled. We did cancel the Verdugo 10K, the Glendale Dodger Night, and a number of smaller community events. Recreation classes, recreation programming, our contract class program, and our senior exercise program, drop-in programming was all canceled. The senior centers, Adult Recreation Center and Spar Heights Community Center was closed. The only thing operating out of those centers are the senior meals program. The congregate meal program, that was closed by LA County, and we followed suit. We changed our operations, and we deliver 7 frozen meals a day, a week. 7 frozen meals a week to all of our participants that are part of the nutritional meals program, and I'll get more into that in a bit. Facilities that have opened since the initial closures, as of May 9th, all of our golf courses in the city, private and public, have opened. Trailheads have opened. We ask that our residents using the trails practice social distancing, wear their masks, face coverings, and do not gather in groups. And as you pass each other in trails, communicate with each other, saying that someone is either on your side, behind you, or in front of you, so you continue that social distancing of 6 feet. As of May 16th, we opened up our tennis and pickleball courts and our community gardens, one being Palmer Community Garden and the equestrian facility at Riverwalk. And as of June 12th, we haven't opened our day camps, but we are allowed to operate our day camp program. Due to the change in fees and calling back our employees, we are opening our day camp program starting July 6th. As Ms. Gabrielle Golia mentioned, our gyms, we have one workout gym at the Adult Recreation Center that is currently closed due to our facilities being closed. Pacific Park Pool opened today, June 15th, for recreation and lap swim. And they are currently operating on a modified schedule. They'll be open Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock till 5, Saturdays and Sundays, 9 to 6. And the splash pads at Pacific Community Center and Cerritos will be open later next week. We're working with Public Works for them to check the entire system, make sure everything is running. We'll have staff go in there, sanitize, and pressure wash both splash pads, and will be open by the end of the week. The Human Services section, Senior Services Unit, as I mentioned earlier, we've changed our operations. As of March 13th, they've started delivering meals, about 200 unduplicated seniors in the Glendale area. We're working with Public Works and Dial-A-Ride to assist us due to our limited fleet and staffing. Dial-A-Ride, instead of delivering the senior to the Adult Recreation Center or Spar Heights, we're asking them to pick up the meals and deliver them to their participants. And they're working with us. That's been a really good collaboration. Before COVID, we were delivering 3,600 meals. I'm sorry, both delivering and preparing 3,600 meals per month. We are currently delivering 8,000 meals. Last month was 9,000. We've increased it to between 8,000 to 9,000. That's per month. Each participant would get 7 meals, 7 frozen meals per week. And if anyone does not have an ability to cook their frozen meals, we would provide them with a brown bag on a daily basis. Brown bags can be picked up at the Adult Recreation Center and Spar Heights, Monday through Friday between 11:30 and 12:30. The Senior Services section also provided 450 bags of hygiene bags. We got generous donations from dollar stores in Glendale and a number of stores in Glendale. We provided hygiene kits, which included towels, hand sanitizers, Kleenex, toothbrush, toothpaste, and other supplies that are needed by our supportive services program. We're also collaborating with Glendale Police Department's Community Policing Unit for the Carrying Collar program. If our case managers suspect that something is wrong with one of our participants, we would call Glendale PD. Glendale PD would dispatch one of their officers and basically do a wellness check. We have also received an additional $135,000 for 35,000 meals with Meals on Wheels and Los Angeles County Workforce Development and Aging. So a total of an additional $135,000 we have received to provide 35,000 meals for up to fiscal year 2021. LA County launched a free delivery service for older adults. If anyone is interested in the free delivery service, they have to pay for the groceries, but the free delivery service, they can contact LA County for groceries and household items. LA County also is the lead applicant for the Great Plates program. That was a program that was implemented by the state of California and FEMA, federal government. The Great Plates program, we currently have 66 seniors in Glendale that have been approved for 3 meals a day, and we have 3 restaurants, Glendale restaurants, that have been approved. And that's a program through LA County. So if anyone is interested, they can call LA County Workforce Development and Aging. In order to be a participant in the program, you're not allowed to be on any other subsidized program or CalFresh program or IHSS. You have to follow certain requirements and income. So if anyone is interested, they can participate in that program. The CDBG unit under Human Services section, this is a really busy section the last month and a half, 2 months. We have received $1,175,000 in CARES Act funding. City Council approved our CARES Act program plan last week on Tuesday. They are allocating $572,000 for rental assistance program. This will allow rental assistance up to $750 a month for 2 months to assist residents that need rental assistance. An additional $572,000 was allocated for the Small Business Grants Program. This will allow 114 Glendale businesses to apply for the program in the amount of $5,000 per grant. This will assist in rent, payroll, mortgage, anything that the business needs on this grant would pay for. An additional $30,000 for the city's elderly nutritional meals program. This will add additional meals for COVID-related services, COVID-related expenses that we need, the extra meals that we've provided and so on. So $1,175,000 in CDBG funding through the CARES Act. We've also purchased 500 fans for a cooling assistance program that we've started. Due to our facilities being closed for cooling centers, we were asked to purchase 500 fans. So far we've given out 90 fans. So if anyone is interested in cooling fans, they have to basically qualify for the fan. One being not having an air conditioning unit in their apartment or their house. But we are opening our cooling centers during heat waves. We opened Maple Park Community Center as a cooling center, and we'll go from there. Depending on how hot the weather gets, we will open some of our facilities as cooling centers. But if any of our seniors are interested, they should call our senior services section for cooling fans. Under the CARES Act, that we have received an additional $569,000 for the homeless services for homeless prevention. That's our emergency solutions grant. And we basically have the Glendale Care Hotel project, which consists of 2 hotel programs. One being the Glendale Care project, which was started by funds that we received through the state in the amount of $47,000. We have 20 clients at a number of hotels in the Glendale area and one in LA area. And then another 15 clients at Project Roomkey. Project Roomkey is a hotel program funded by the state, and we're working with LAHSA and LA County to fund those clients. So a total of $360,000 for both hotel projects. $60,750 we're spending for Project Room Key. That's $45 a night for 90 days. The $45 we pay to First to Serve. It's a nonprofit organization that handles the case management component, the services, and LASA and the state is picking up the $100 nightly rate and the $55 rate for food and overnight 24-hour security and nursing. So we're being charged $45 a rate for Project Room Key. For the Glendale Express, we're using that facility for 90 days at $100 a night, and Ascensia is handling the case management. Through this program, we're also allocating $85,000 for case management for Ascensia for them to provide services. We have received word through LA County that they will be extending the hotel program for another month. We're working with them to extend it through at least now through the end of August. So more information to follow in the next meeting if anything changes. As part of the 569, we're also allocating $67,000 for the portable showers, hand washing stations, and restrooms that we have deployed all over the city. The portable showers, we have Showers of Hope that they operate at the Adult Recreation Center every Monday, 5 hours a day. A homeless individual, an unsheltered homeless individual can come in, take their shower. It's self-contained. They can change, and hygiene kits are provided, new clothes are provided, towels are provided. That's every Monday for the next 5 months through the end of September. And the portable restrooms and the washing stations are also funded through the end of September. And then we're also allocating an additional $85,000 for homeless prevention. This will go to the 3 nonprofits that have ESG programs: Catholic Charities, Family Promise, and YWCA. The homeless prevention will be divided equally in addition to the 50% of the admin costs. The Park Services section, ever since the COVID pandemic, March 13, Park Services section have been working in maintaining the facilities. They sanitize the restrooms 3 to 4 times a day. They shampoo the restrooms on a daily basis, maintain the facilities. The staff is on a modified schedule. They work 4 10-hour shifts. And due to the fields being closed, they basically took advantage and renovated a number of fields, some at the sports complex, Montrose Dunsmore ball fields, and they're also working at Glorieta Park for some field improvements. So a lot of the back burner projects that were on hold are being completed now by the Park Services staff. Recreation and Community Services, the Youth and Family Services Program, they're holding remote virtual teen night outs. We've had a number of teen night outs, how COVID-19 impacts the teen community, mental health, bullying, homework help, how to succeed in high school. It's been pretty popular with our teens. We've had a virtual homework help also, all by our Youth and Family Services Program. We've partnered up with AGBU Generation Next and GUSD to provide those services. Trails and Open Space. Since our Trails and Open Space have opened, we're asking our registered volunteers to assist us in trail maintenance. And eventually, we have staff working on virtual programming for the residents. So they're working on that also. Recreation staff is also conducting wellness checks of our seniors that participate in our senior programs, our senior exercise class. Our therapeutic recreation program also, they're doing virtual Get Fit classes with the participants, and they're also doing wellness checks on all of our therapeutic recreation clients. Our workforce development section, they've been awarded $1.3 million in emergency assistance funds through State of California Employee Development Department, and these funds are to be used to help the unemployed due to the COVID pandemic for training, language development, rental assistance, and payments for participants that have been laid off and dislocated from their jobs. With that being said, I would like to thank all the employees with the Community Service and Parks Department, from Park Services, Homeless Services, Senior Services, Recreation, every employee that have gone above and beyond the last 2.5 months since March 13th, trying to deal with the pandemic and assisting all the residents in Glendale. So if there's any questions, President Wolfson, any of the commissioners, I'll be happy to answer them.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to call on the commissioners. And Commissioner Eberly, do you have any questions?
I do, and I said it at the beginning, but I also will say it here that I think it's remarkable how much the staff has done in these last few months to respond to what is happening. I guess my first question is just, I know it's been a huge lift to get all of those meals to seniors, and I'm just wondering if we're going to be able to sustain that.
President Wolfson, Commissioner Eberly, just to make sure we clearly heard the question because you cut off, were you asking if we're going to be able to sustain the number of senior meals we are providing after this period is over? Is that what your question was?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it was 3,600 meals and then it jumped to 9,000 last month. Is that right?
Yes.
President Wolfson, Commissioner Eberly, we probably, with the current funding that we have, we will not be able to sustain 8,000 to 9,000 meals per month through the end of the year if we had to continue to serve that many meals with the current funding. But we are hopeful that we will get additional funding from the county and or we will go back to normal life, hopefully. But if we don't, then we are hoping that the County of LA will give us additional funding. Staff has applied for Meals on Wheels grants, so we were able to secure an additional $90,000 that we could help supplement the funding that we currently get from the county and the general funds. But if this was to continue, we would have to evaluate next year's budget and how long the county will continue to keep the facilities closed and how high that need is. And even if the facility's open, there might be seniors that don't feel comfortable to come back and may still need the meals. So we are going to need to reevaluate mid-year to see if we will be able to sustain based on the funding that we're able to secure from the county.
Okay. I've also been reading about the uptick in domestic violence. This is, well, not associated with COVID, but during the COVID epidemic. And I'm just wondering I know that Door of Hope was one of the organizations that received funds, but can you speak a little bit to what CSP is doing to support the organizations that are providing those services?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
Could you repeat the question?
Sorry. I said I've been reading about the uptick in domestic violence during this time, and I was just wondering if you could talk about what CSP is doing to support the organizations providing the services. I believe you said Door of Hope is one of the recipients of funds, CDBG funds.
Yes, President Wolfson, members of the commission, Commissioner Eberly, Door of Hope is one of the recipients of the funds. Basically, we have our staff working with all the nonprofit agencies that we've fund and asking if they need additional capacity. If we were to receive additional funding through CDBG, ESG, we'll be working with the nonprofits, letting them know that there is additional funding. As of now, in terms of any of our nonprofits, if they're requesting assistance, we're more than happy to assist if we have the resources to assist. But in terms of DV, an uptick in DV. We've worked with our police department. Haven't heard about an uptick, but we will touch base with YWCA and see if they need any more of our assistance.
Thank you. I think that what I was reading was just that people who are in situations of domestic violence have a harder time accessing assistance during this time because they're, sort of trapped with the person who's abusing them. So children and adults as well.
Yes, absolutely. We'll work with YWCA and other nonprofits in the area that work with the clientele. Get that information out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from? Okay. Commissioner Kafayan, do you have any questions on the COVID update?
I have no questions. I'm just very impressed what we do for this community by the park and recreation staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kafayan. Commissioner Michaels?
I'd like to echo my appreciation for the adaptability and the response of staff and all of the different departments. Going through the reports, it's difficult to keep track of all of the different changes, and I appreciate all of that. I have no specific questions other than trying to ask, are there areas where staff feels there are deficiencies or areas that need improvement? I know that's a difficult question to try and answer because you've been addressing that, but the response, I realize, is fluid. The budget changes, we don't know what those expenses are, and a lot of the funding sources are shifting. Is there any areas that park staff is having a challenge with?
President Wolfson, members of the commission, in terms of the budget, it is going to be challenging for us next fiscal year. We have been tasked to come up with budget reductions from services, and I'm working with staff, and staff is working together to figure it out as we speak. But in terms of COVID, the most challenging thing that we have experienced is the residents following the orders. It's a little frustrating to staff when we have our field staff go up and put caution tape and signs for their protection to prevent the transmission of COVID from one person to another. When they put up a caution tape or a sign, within 10-15 minutes, the sign is ripped in the garbage. We're asking the residents to basically follow the rules of the LA County Health Officer and what our mayor and council sign as to what an emergency order is and what are the health and safety orders. That's the most challenging, I think, for our field staff. But other than that, I think if we come back to commission with a budget update after we take a budget update to council citywide, that would be great. Just so commission is aware on what programs we are thinking about reducing or cutting, if any. Our hope is that we'll be creative and we'll make it work through next fiscal year and the year after. I hope that answers your question.
That does answer my question. I appreciate your efforts. I have been hearing the reports of the challenges among the field staff. Is there any way that they can be made to feel safer, or a coordinated effort with the Glendale Police Department, which I believe is already stretched thin with their response of getting compliance with the orders?
Commissioner Michaels, President Wolfson, Commissioner Michaels, whenever we have a issue at any of our parks, staff do call the police department and they do respond. So the relationship that we have with GPD and the community policing unit is tremendous. From homeless outreach team, from patrolling our parks, they do what they can do to basically balance their service. But when we see something that's not being followed at any of our parks, we do call the police department for them to respond and take appropriate action. In terms of safety, all of our staff, they do have personal protective equipment. We do ask them to social distance while they're working in groups to stay 6 feet apart. Coco, do you have, Coco, are you on the line?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Coco, I don't know if you want to add anything in terms of safety, but I know that the Park Services staff, they're out there, they do have all their safety equipment and the resources that they request we provide. But I don't know if you want to touch on anything else that I've missed.
Sure. President Wolfson, Commissioners, good afternoon. Sorry I couldn't be there in person, but things are the way they are nowadays. As Mr. Bolikian covered most of the safety measures we have in place, I can simply add on to that by saying that we've implemented new procedures for the morning routine for staff. They would check into work, and normally they'd have a meeting with the supervisors, managers, get their assignments. Most of that has been cut down to a very basic minimal assignments, and they take their vehicles and move on. And because we actually share vehicles at times, every morning they're supposed to sanitize the vehicles and all touch areas to make sure that we're not unnecessarily spreading. Mr. Bolikian also touched on the 410 schedule that we implemented. This actually separated the groups into two by limiting the number of staff checking into the yards at each time. So we have taken every available measure to keep staff safe, and staff has been practicing those measures for their safety as well as the public. We've increased sanitization in areas that we are open to the public, and we do look at health as the number one priority, health and safety for our public and our staff, and we're doing everything we can to continue with that. And yes, we have all the necessary PPE for our staff, and we continue getting a stock of it, so there's always a protection for our staff in the field.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay, so it's my turn. First of all, we sound like a broken record, but I want to also say thank you so much to the staff. And just in general, I think our city is just really doing a great job of taking this challenge on and being innovative and taking, being thoughtful and taking it seriously, which I think is very important. And I have one or a couple of little questions I was going to ask about. In the materials, we talked about the service fee on credit card transactions, and I was wondering how we do with that. Do we recover the cost that the city incurs, or how does that end up happening? That may not be a question that you can answer right now, but it's just something, because I know we're being charged. We're not trying to make money on it. We're just trying to recoup our costs on the fees that were charged on credit card transactions. Does anybody have a feel?
President Wolfson, members of the commission, this is Gabrielle, and the intent of the service fees that are charged to customers on credit card transactions is to recoup the cost that the city pays. The goal is to have net zero at the end. We're not looking to bring in any kind of revenue. Sometimes we have years or periods where we are charged more fees than we actually collect, and then there's other periods where we collect a little more fees than we're charged. And the reason behind that is because every credit card transaction is charged a little bit different money. So we try to average out, and it is set by the finance department. It's not a parks fee. Mm-hmm. It is a citywide fee that is for all departments citywide, and we are told the percentage that we are to charge. And they look at the average cost per annually that we're charged as a city on credit card transactions, and that's how they determine that percentage.
Okay, so they probably have that all under control.
Yes.
That's good to know. And then, I just wanted to reiterate, as was mentioned already by Onig, about the people removing the tape. I've seen it in my neighborhood park, and I really didn't want to call anybody, and because I know you guys are on top of it, and I know people are really frustrated and unhappy, and I think a lot of people want to act as if the pandemic isn't real, or that it's being exaggerated somehow, because I think in a situation like this, the truth is more unpleasant and frightening than people want to accept. So I want to be sensitive to those feelings that people have. I don't want to be unkind. But I think we have to face the fact that we're dealing with this is a scientific situation. It's a virus that's highly contagious. It has a higher fatality rate than the annual flu. It's not like the flu. It's a new virus that we have no experience with. And humans don't have any immunity because this is not a virus that we've have previous experience with human beings contracting. At the time, there have not been any properly conducted studies because it's too new. It takes time for the research to be done. It takes time for properly conducted scientific studies have to follow certain protocols. You don't just go running amok and go, oh, I think this works because you saw it work for a few people. It has to be done properly. You have to have control groups. You have to have, I'm not lecturing you guys. I just feel like somebody has to say these things. So there hasn't been the research done into the behavior of this virus or into how virulent it is. And we don't really know what works to treat it. And we don't have a vaccine to prevent it yet. And until we have a vaccine that has been proven to work for a sustained period of time, I think we all need to understand that we're putting ourselves and other people at risk if we don't respect the requests that are being made of us by public health officials. And I've seen a lot of people, running around in my neighborhood, not socially distancing. I come walking along with my little decrepit elderly dog, and people don't, they don't seem to think that they should arrange with me to step aside or anything. And I just want to put it out there, I do my best to socially distance from others because I don't know for sure that I might not hurt somebody myself or that they might not hurt me. So we're one community. This is the Community Services and Parks Department. And I think we should, love is an action as much as it is an emotion. And so I'd like to see all of us acting out love for each other during this very difficult time. Because a lot of people are hurting financially, a lot of people are hurting health-wise, and they have relatives who are ill. And there have been, almost 100 people in Glendale have died of this virus already. So I just want to say that I see our staff practicing love for this community, and I'd like to see us, show them the same love and show it to each other. Okay, and that's really all I have to say about it. We're not going through the other reports, or?
If you have any questions, they're in your packet. We have 7 other reports.
Okay.
We have staff on the call, or myself, or
So I'm going to call on the commissioners. Commissioner Eberly, do you want to ask any questions?
President Wolfson, if I may interrupt, can we have Iris read them into the record, and then maybe we can then?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Iris?
Thank you. Item 7B is Mobile Recreation, Party on the Go, Glendale Rocks, and Flicks on the Go Annual Report for January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
Iris, you want to just read them all into the record and then we'll just answer questions?
Teresa and President Wolfson, if it pleases you, it might be more orderly to read each item and see if anybody has any questions and then move on to the next, unless you really want me to just read everything.
Okay, so are there any questions about the mobile recreation report?
Not from me.
Not for me.
And Commissioner Kofayan?
And not for me.
Thank you. Next,
Next is 7C, Customer Service Office and Filming Annual Report for January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
No questions.
Commissioners Kofayan?
Yes. I have no questions. If you can excuse me, I have to leave to another meeting. Can I be excused?
Yes, of course. I guess Iris you make a note that Commissioner Kofayan is leaving.
Yes, that he's leaving the meeting at 4 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Michaels, do you?
No questions on this report.
Thank you.
Item 7D, Contract Class Annual Report for January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
I have my recurring question, which is how can we get this into the hands of the families of GUSD? Do you know if there's any change in the Peach Jar situation?
President Wolfson, Commissioner Eberly, no, we have not heard anything different about Peach Jar. As far as we know, they're still charging for anything that is advertising any program that charges a fee.
Thank you. That's disappointing.
Commissioner Michaels, do you have any?
I have the understanding that with the COVID-19 situation, the contract classes is probably going to be very fluid, but I have no questions and would look to see if there is an update as things proceed.
Okay.
Thank you. Next report.
Next is 7E, Therapeutic Recreation Annual Report for January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
No questions.
No specific questions.
And I have no questions.
7F, Maple Park Community Center Annual Report.
No questions.
No questions.
I have one question, and it's maybe maybe I'm asking this at the wrong time, but I just want to put it out there. Obviously, we're taking a huge hit in income, and we have a lot of fixed costs that can't be reduced, really. So I'm wondering, I have heard, now I know we got CARES money and so on, but I've also heard that there's, maybe some money available from FEMA related to COVID. I don't know if that's the same thing. You'll have to pardon me for not being maybe as well-versed as I should be on that. Does anybody have an answer?
President Wolfson, members of the commission, anything COVID-related, we can apply to get reimbursed by FEMA. But if it's federal funding, such as the CARES Act, we can't submit for reimbursement because CARES Act funding is federal. So, for example, the state funds that we got in the amount of $47,000 for the hotels, we can submit for FEMA and get reimbursed 75%. So if we were to get those funds back, then we can reprogram them to another program. But they have to be COVID related. So revenue loss or operating expenses are not COVID related. so it won't be eligible for FEMA. Staffing overtime, if Park Services, they have to stay over time and, clean a facility because they have a COVID outbreak, those salaries, that overtime salaries would be eligible for FEMA reimbursement. It depends on the case-by-case basis. We are submitting everything for, to be reimbursed, such as our PPE, personal equipment, additional chemicals that we're purchasing. All that is being submitted through our finance department to FEMA. If we get reimbursed 75%, that'd be great.
But even like I was thinking, we mentioned earlier the crayons and whatnot that we're supplying each child with their own set of crayons. We would not ordinarily do that. We're doing that because of the outbreak.
We can ask our finance department to see if that would be eligible. If it is, then we'll definitely submit that.
Good.
That's a very good question. Yeah.
Just thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Back to our list.
Next item is 7G, Annual Volunteer Report for March 1st, 2019 through February 29, 2020.
No questions.
I'd like to express my appreciation for the volunteers, and the questions I have are not for the past year, but are there volunteer opportunities and current volunteers working with the programs, given the COVID-19 situation going on now?
President Wolfson, members of the commission, currently we are not having our volunteers work in our facilities just to prevent exposure. Our trails and open space volunteers just started, I believe, last week to assist in the trail maintenance. But inside our facilities, we don't have any of our volunteers working.
Thank you.
As much as we'd love to, it's basically a safety precaution.
I understand that safety precaution, and that was what I was asking for. But I want to appreciate and give thanks to the volunteers for last year, and hopefully we will have volunteers be able to join the programs in the coming year.
Thank you.
And I'll just chime in and also express how grateful I am for what the volunteers do, and hopefully we'll be able to have them active again very soon. Next item.
Next is 7H, Adult Recreation Center Facility Operations and Senior Programs Annual Report.
I have no questions.
I have no questions, with the understanding that the report from last year and the report for this coming year are going to be likely vastly different.
And I have no questions.
Item 7I, Park Services Section Activity Report for February 2020 through May 2020.
I have no questions.
I have one follow-up question. Mr. Panosian provided me with the MSDS for the new herbicide, and I wanted to see if there was an update on the effectiveness of that. Looking at the MSDS, I expect it smells very nice, but are you seeing a impact with that?
Yes, President Wolfson, Commissioner Michaels, we have seen a positive result in using the product, which is Whack Out Weeds. It is a natural product, and we're hoping that it will have the same impacts as we did with Roundup, since we have not been using Roundup. Given that it's natural, we had our doubts, but it seems to be doing a reasonably good job. Now, it's still too early for me to be able to tell you that it's fully effective, but we are seeing some weeds pop back up in the areas that we've sprayed. However, they're minimal compared to some other products we've used. So allow us a little more time to continue using it in the field, and we can bring back more information to you in future months as to its effectiveness in the field.
Thank you. Now, I know in the past the pesticide applicator had retired from the city. Has that position been refilled?
Commissioner Michaels, no, the pesticide applicator position we currently have is an hourly position. It is no longer a full-time position, and it has been vacant for the past year. Part of the challenge is we're looking for individuals who are horticulturally geared in their application, and most of those individuals already have full-time jobs. A part-time job is not as enticing to recruit. Our last recruitment did not garner any results because most individuals coming in were more structural, like building applicators, and that is we have a vendor that does that service for us. Hence, we were unable to recruit from that process. We currently do have one licensed applicator, or one of our supervisors, Dennis Gaudenti, who is an advisor as well, and he handles a lot of the application for us in the field when we feel there's a need. And we do have 2 or 3, as a matter of fact, vendors, contractors. One is Cats USA that handles our facilities, and then we have 2 others that handle herbicidal application as necessary, such as treating for weeds, treating for clover in the ball field, and et cetera.
Are those individuals able to meet all of the work orders and the needs, or are there work orders that are going unmet?
That's a very good question. We do have some work orders that require a little more of a process to complete. That will be, a lot of those tend to be with, let's say, termites or rodents in structures that require assistance from, Public Works to get, contractors out there to make sure we seal everything up and be able to address. We are getting to all of the requests. Some do take a little longer, but we're achieving the best we can with the resources at hand, and have been able to keep things safe for our community, whether it be pesticide or herbicides.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to one more time say thank you to the the work that's been done to keep the parks in good shape. It's not easy, especially given the circumstances, so I'm very appreciative of that. And I also want to say I did receive the inventory of playground equipment, and so I'm grateful to have received that. And let's see. I guess that's pretty much it. Next item is it adjournment?
Yes, that is correct. 8 is adjournment.
Okay. I guess we're adjourned then. Thank you.
Thank you.